Historians sometimes describe it as Africa's forgotten genocide, and today the German government admitted for the first time officially that its troops carried out mass killings in what is now called Namibia. The admission follows years of reconciliation talks between Germany and Namibia over colonial-era crimes against the Herero and Nama people. From Berlin, SABC's Trent Murray sent us this report.
This statement by German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas is as significant as it is symbolic. For the first time, Germany is admitting it carried out genocide during its colonial rule of southwestern Africa at the beginning of the 20th century. Heiko Maas says that people in what is now modern-day Namibia experienced immeasurable suffering, and he apologised on behalf of Germany. He also promised 1.1 billion euros in funding, about 18.5 billion South African rand, money that would go to the descendants of those who were killed in these atrocities to help them build a better life. Importantly, legal claims of compensation will not be deducted from this funding and will be treated entirely separately, possibly opening up new claims for reparations from descendants and families of those who were killed. This all comes after 6 years' worth of discussions between Namibia and Germany. Heiko Maas says he hopes that these talks represent a new chapter in the relationship between Namibia and Germany. He said he wants to see the two countries find a more common path to genuine reconciliation in memory of the victims. But this comes as Germany is facing some increasingly difficult conversations about its role in post-colonial Africa. While countries like the UK and France dedicate significant time to teaching about this period in their schools, activists say more work needs to be done here to teach the next generation of Germans about their country's role in colonial Africa. Trent Murray, SABC News, Berlin.
Well, in announcing an agreement with Namibia following more than 5 years of negotiations, Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said that the events of the German colonial period should be named without sparing or glossing over them.
bin außerordentlich froh und auch sehr dankbar, dass es jetzt endlich gelungen ist.
I am extremely happy and very grateful to have reached an agreement with Namibia on how to deal with one of the darkest chapters in our shared history. The fact that Rupert Polenz and his Namibian negotiating partner have been able to bring the negotiations to an end after more than 5 years is a great achievement. Today, we officially refer to these events as what they were: a genocide. We are therefore acknowledging our historical responsibility. And in the light of Germany's historical and moral responsibility, we will ask Namibia and the descendants of the victims for forgiveness. And as a gesture of recognition of the immeasurable suffering that was inflicted on the victims, we want to support Namibia and the descendants of the victims with a substantial program worth 1.1 billion euros aimed at reconstruction and development. We cannot erase the past. The acknowledgement of guilt and our request for forgiveness is an important step to come to terms with the crimes and to shape the future together. Our goal is to find a common path to real reconciliation in memory of the victims. And that means we have to name the events of the German colonial period in what today is Namibia without sparing or glossing over them, and in particular the atrocities which happened between 1904 and 1908.
Aufzuarbeiten und gemeinsam die Zukunft zu gestalten.
The Herero Paramount Chief Vukui Rukoro has rejected a deal agreed by the German and Namibian governments because it did not include payment of reparations. Germany has committed to fund $1.3 billion of reconstruction and development projects in Namibia. To discuss this issue, we're now joined via Zoom by Channel Africa's producer analyst Isaac Homo. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for inviting me.
Some people are not happy about what's been negotiated, but I guess when we look at the history of what happened and the time that's elapsed, it is a significant day today.
Well, I don't know if it's a significant day, but it's just whitewashing the whole thing. simply because, for a start, the victims of this genocide were the Namas of Witbooi and also the Hereros. And these people have been, for the last, I think, 20 years, been trying to actually tackle the Germans on that and try to get compensated and also get an official apology. The Germans have been very adamant of not actually even talking to them. They said that what they are doing is they're giving a lot of aid to Namibia. Yeah, and that's a thing, it's a way of actually appeasing or forgetting about the thing. The Namibians, the Hereros and the Namas took the case to an American court. They took it there twice. Unfortunately, the case was thrown out. Yeah. So today you find that the Germans and the Namibian governments have sat and have agreed over the heads of the Hereros and the Namas, and they call us a significant step. Yeah, because basically, I mean, the chief is right. I mean, it's not just a matter of reparations. I mean to say that those people, when they were killed, and they were killed brutally, I don't think we've got time to talk on how the thing was done. Water holes were poisoned. And over half the population of Hereros, and the population of Hereros was reduced to less than half. I think it was just about a quarter. And they suffer from that until today. Same with the Namas. But I mean to say that in a situation like that, the Germans were supposed to give an unconditional apology, which they never did, to the Hereros and the Namas, not to the Namibians. To the Namibians, they should actually apologize for colonialism. This is genocide, as they did to the Jews. But these are black people, they don't need to think that is thing. I mean, suffering of blacks will be normalized. But what is supposed to happen? They're supposed to be compensated for loss of income from their lands, because those lands of the Namas and the Hereros are the agriculture, are the ranching lands of today. And those people are not there. They should actually be reparated for the hardships that they followed, they experienced. And also restituted. The land, they've got to be given the land back. But you find that the whole thing is a rapprochement with the whole of the Namibian government. And that's going to be spread in developmental aid over 30 years. Now, where is the compensation? What is it? I mean, they're treating people like kids, basically. They're not serious.
So,
the Germans are not serious.
Why do you think it's taken this long? I mean, this is more than 100 years. There's been a Holocaust against Germans since that the Germans acknowledged. Why did they not acknowledge this one, and why has it taken so long?
There is a simple answer to that. It has taken that long because the victims of blacks, nothing more than that. Let's not bluff ourselves. I mean to say that after the people were defeated, they were jailed on Shark Island and eugenic experimentation was done to them. It has taken that long because the people were blacks. And that's all, nothing more than that. And not only that, the whole issue has been toned down. Yeah, the same thing cannot happen to the Jews. The Germans apologized 20 times over. Yeah, and they compensated the victims and also compensated the nation. Yeah, but it's taken that long because they're just blacks. I mean to say that, I'll give a very good example. There are issues which happen to blacks. For example, is this that black people, the Namas, I mean the Khoisan people, you could get a license to hunt a Khoisan in Namibia and also in South Africa. The last license was issued out in South Africa in 1936. My mother was born in 1920. And during her time, a license was issued out to hunt for a bushman. The same thing happened in Namibia, 1936. And this was under apartheid government, but nobody talks about it. It's not an issue because of blacks. You cannot do such a thing to a white person, never.
So why did the Namibian government agree to these terms if they are wholly inadequate?
Well, that's the Namibian government. It is not the Hereros. You know, one thing you should say that the victims were Hereros and Namas. And the Namibian government was not too keen on the whole issue being taken up by the Hereros and Namas, just as what is happening now. You find that in the land restitution, yeah, through colonialism of land in Namibia, most of that land, when it's been taken back, it is actually, a lot of that land is going to people who were never even victims of dispossession. They're going to political leaders who come from Ovambo land and other things. But the Hereros are looking, that's why they're very angry. The Hereros are angry, not even with the genocide, but even with the issue of restitution. The lands, the drenching lands, they're mostly Herero land and Nama land. But when they've got to restitute that land, it does not go to them. So that's why the Namibian government is acting as it is. That's why the Hereros are angry.
When one looks at this story, it appears as if Germany thinks that they've settled the matter once and for all. The Namibian authorities are saying that this is a first step. They both can't be on the same page.
But what about the victims? You know, I mean to say that the Namibian government is actually saying that it's the right step in the right direction. But the real victims, the Hereros, they're nowhere in the scene. You know, that's the big question. And let's not talk about what the Germans say and what the Namibian government say. The Namibian government is not saying, they're not negotiating on behalf of the Hereros. They're negotiating on part of all the Namibians. What about the real victims? The tribe has been decimated.
So the German authorities, I mean, surely would have to negotiate with the Namibian authorities, and I suppose the onus was on the Namibian authorities to talk to the Herero about what they wanted.
No, the onus of the Germans is to go and talk to the victims, the people that they actually slaughtered. I will not go and slaughter somebody and talk to him about and talk about compensation with the neighbor. That's not African. In Africa, you go to the person that you affected. And they refuse. Not that they are doing it because they never knew. They refuse. The Hereros and the Namas have been trying to do it for the last 20 to 25, 30 years. They refuse. So they went the easy way with the government. And that is just through negotiating aid to Namibia. That's what it has fallen down to. We're going to have a special aid. And they refuse to agree to a reparation and compensation. They've totally refused to do that.
So,
so
politics then seems to be getting the upper hand. Tell us, is there anything in this for Angela Merkel? Is this something about legacy, a farewell thing for... Yeah?
Yes, she's stepping down. It's a thing of a legacy of Angela Merkel, and not only that. Now, it's a way of appeasing Africans. I mean, she's going to have that in CV and things like that. But that is very sad, you know. But I mean to say that it is sad because basically, you know, it's an insult to Africans, basically. We can say that the Germans are doing it, but we're being insulted, basically.
Is this not about maybe increased pressure about the environment that we find ourselves in? It wasn't that long ago that Belgian Congo had to admit what King Leopold did in their country. There was an acknowledgement there. Again, debates about it wasn't far enough. And then we find ourselves, of course, in a world of hashtag Black Lives Matter. And Germany perhaps feeling all of these kinds of pressures.
See, what the whites are trying to do, they're trying to push everything under the carpet. The killing of Lumumba, he was killed by the Belgian government. But today the Belgian government has got the cheek of actually putting up a statue in his honor. And they're returning his remains. That's a tooth that was left. They're returning to the Congo. And these Congolese people are happy about that. It's an insult. You know what they've done? Black suffering has been regularized. It's been naturalized. It's a natural thing. And we're not supposed to fight or to cry. We are just all sorry. It's like a small kid. Okay, sorry, take this and keep quiet and move on. You know, the Chinese, they've got a very big case with the Japanese on the atrocities which were done in the Second World War. And they're very serious about that. Same with the Koreans. Yeah, but our issues they've been trivialized, and everything, our suffering has been normalized. The black Americans are talking of reparations and apologies. They will never get it. But what they suffered is hell.
So
The same thing will never happen to the Jews. You know, but we've got to be very, very, very clear about that. The thing will never happen to the Jews. And it never happened to the whites. The Aborigines.
So the Nama and the Herero have been let down not just by Germany, but by their own government as well.
They're angry. In fact, they're very angry. No, I've been talking to them. I've done programs with them some time ago, and they're very angry. And they're very weak because their populations are small. But they're really very, very angry.
All right, Isaac Homo, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for a very candid chat about this acknowledgement by Germany 113 years after the fact about the genocide, the first genocide of the 20th century, the killings of tens of thousands of Herero and Nama by German soldiers in a country which we now know as Namibia. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Okay, just one issue, sorry about that. When Trotter, the general who was responsible for the genocide, after Namibia, he was sent to Tanzania, where he went and fought and he put down a rebellion there. And he did it in the similar fashion. There was another genocide which took place in Dosh, East Africa, and it was Van Trotter who did it against the Ngoni people. So that has not been lost.
I think that's another conversation that we're going to have soon. Isaac, thanks very much indeed.